Okay, it's Wednesday. Here I am. The week caught up to me very quickly because we had Monday off. Let me pull my glasses up for a moment, unless I need when I start reading comments. Hey, thanks for being here. Whether you're live here today or you found me and watching a recorded version of this show, I appreciate the support. By the way, if you do like what you're hearing and you're enjoying the show, please hit the little button, subscribe, and then you'll be notified when new shows come available. I'm calling it shows because I've done radio for so many years. It's not exactly a show. I think of it more as a sharing, but I'll certainly do comments and I'll do questions and, try and, just be there for you in the way that you need me to during the time I'm live. So like, subscribe, and share if you would, please. Okay, so I think what's really on my heart to share today has a lot to do with what I think is the most critical elements to navigate the human experience for maximum success. I know most of us think it's a 1 to 5 to-do list. If I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that, then I will be happy and then life will work out for me. And I'll have money and I'll have love and all that. And of course, we all want those things in the human experience. We need those things to not only pass the time, but they help us grow and elevate ourselves, which is what we're doing here on the planet. We forget. We forget that we're here to grow and evolve and expand ourselves, be part of the greater consciousness. So I think it's important to reflect on that. Culture wants to tell us who we are. Our family wants to tell us who we are and what's possible. And it's real easy to fall into that I call it the sheep mentality, where everyone follows along doing a certain something because they think they're supposed to. And if they don't, they're not a good person or they're a schmuck or whatever. When in actuality, the goal, the challenge, the task of the lifetime is really in getting very clear on who you are and following that path and living your purpose to its fullness. So that's really what the challenge and the goal is at this particular time. And by the way, hello, I think some of you are starting to come in the chat room. I'll be reading the comments momentarily when I put my glasses back on, okay? And again, thanks for being here. But especially in this pandemic period, and it's forced us to look at new ways of doing things. And those of us, you, who are kind of waiting for things to return to normal, that there's not going to be a normal again. It's not going to go back to the way it was. This is actually an energetic explosion of a sort to push us forward, to cause us to go deeper inside of ourselves and be pioneers in our own life. And that involves risk, that involves getting out of the comfort zone. But if you watch the news at all, and I'm very much anti-news, I'm not about the news at all. I think it's not useful in any sense of the word unless you're looking at the weather report. I think that's useful, or something in your local community. I have experienced the news to be mostly propaganda. It's an agenda. And the news is owned and operated by people of different political affiliations, and that's all you get, whatever their political point of view is. And information that may actually be interesting or valuable to us or cause us to think, a lot of it's being eradicated from the internet. It's like you can't even have a different point of view, or else you're a conspiracy theorist, or you're, whatever. So, and I guess it's been going on for quite some time, but it was never more apparent to me than when COVID came out and I started watching the news, and I started then doing a death tally on news shows, and I thought it was just disgusting. It never has ever in the history of the world have we done a death tally on TV. So anyhow, I don't need to stay on that soapbox for a long time. The reason I got on that point of view is because I think we all, because we're tribal by nature, we want to belong. We're good people. We want to feel like we're doing the right thing. and we follow a certain path because we think that makes us relevant, or it makes us a good person, or it makes people view us in a certain way, which I think is really the rub, that we all want to be accepted and, embraced. And we feel if we step outside of the lines, we will get rejected. And you know what? Sometimes we do. Sometimes people say, "Hey, I don't like you. You suck," or "I don't like what you believe," or "You're ugly," or, we do get that. But nonetheless, we have to stay focused on listening to who we are, developing that relationship to higher consciousness, and continuing to let that be our North Star, because that's where the wisdom is. It's not in trying to track down all the best facts or who's got the best news. It's really about, what do I need to know? And then being diligent about going out and finding out what you need to know if it's not apparent to you. So how does this relate to psychic? How does this relate to love or anything else going on in our world? Without the ability to hear, and that one connection, without that ability to honor yourself, it can be really hard to find peacefulness and joy in life. I had a client, still do, who was an accomplished attorney, and he signed up for a reading, and we're going into his story, and he's married for 20 years and he's got 2 kids or whatnot. And then he says, "But you know what? When I first went to college, I really wanted to get into environmental science. But my family told me, you're not going to make money in there. That's not a good industry to go into. Go this direction." So he went in that direction. And here he is 20 years later, with a mortgage, with kids, and a business that he has to run, and he's not happy. He's not content, and he still longs to be in the environmental sciences. So when we're called to do something, if we don't do it, we're shutting down a part of ourselves. And I think a lot of people do that. We succumb to a pressure of some sort, and we don't answer the call in our own life. And then we progress through the lifetime, and it feels like it's gone really fast, and there's unanswered questions in our system. And those, you can call them regrets, or just, Wayne Dyer would always say, don't leave the lifetime with your music still in you. Your music is still in you. You haven't expressed. So, the topic of today's show was who you are and who you aren't. Who we are is divine creative essence. We are timeless beings with dignity, purpose, power, and intention. And we come into a tangible experience to realize more of ourselves, to contribute to the greater consciousness at large. I mean, that's what we're doing here. And the experiences we have are not for the experience, they're for who they make us become. And when we don't answer the call to go down certain paths, then we don't get to grow as much as we would like to grow. So much of my work in talking to people, even in a psychic reading, I see the possibilities in a blueprint. I mean, it's part of why I became a coach, because I see these possibilities, and our fears and our self-doubts and our disbeliefs about what we're capable of doing filter, and they close us down, and we get so afraid to take a path or make a mistake, or I'm not going to be all right. What's going to happen to me? And all of those fears keep us from our possibilities. And the other thing about experience is they're there to teach us something. That we're supposed to enjoy them as well when we can, of course, but they're to teach us something about ourselves. And if we don't learn what an experience has to teach us, we're going to keep attracting circumstances that make us learn, that make us go through some type of experience that is either uncomfortable or that we don't want. But if we lean into the experience and give ourselves to it and say, okay, then we grow and expand, and the energy dissipates. In the experience, we don't have to keep repeating something. I know I've done repeating experiences in relationships at certain times in my life. I don't anymore. I kind of figured it out around the age of 45, I think. So right in there, I think I figured out, oh, things are repeating. Some people move along a little faster in life than I do, but I could see that I was picking the same people for the same reasons, and I wasn't looking at my own process. So in this, I started to understand how incredibly powerful we are as beings, even so much what we think. We put that into consciousness, and depending on what frequency we're vibrating on or what's happening in our experience, we can create it. I have a client I'm working with, I love dearly, who she's been doing some dating and trying to find her person, if you will. And she started dating someone, but she had different things going on, and she was like, "Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't call this weekend and want to get together because I just want to do my own thing." So she was really putting out into energy, "I hope he doesn't call. I hope he doesn't call." And then over the next week, as they were getting closer and this and that, and had some interactions, all of a sudden he wasn't calling. And I'm like, well, you see, there's a correlation. You put that powerful statement, that stop energy, into consciousness, and somehow it was received. So, I mean, in the smallest of things like that, we can negate our own experience and the things we actually want. And rather than biting the bullet and speaking up on behalf of ourselves and just saying, I'm a little bit tired this weekend, I don't think I want to, and I think a lot of people have trouble. They're afraid I'm going to disappoint somebody. Someone may not like what I say, or perhaps this person won't come back and date me anymore. But these are the types of challenges we have to get comfortable facing. But the point here is we're incredibly creative beings, and we're timeless. And once I don't want to say it's a belief, once we understand that, once we recognize that there is an element to us that is not of this physical world, and this is just some plasma that we're inhabiting here, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going after this. There's life after life, and that this is a learning experience place, a classroom of a sorts. And once we can understand that and take that into our being, it changes our perspective of how we interact in life. It makes it easier, quite frankly, makes it easier to make choices. It makes it easier to try things. It makes it easier all the way around. And when you're talking about energy, and of course everything's energy, what happens when you feel everything is easier? Think law of attraction, what have you. When you think everything and feel, well, this is easy, guess what happens to your creative processes? Things manifest more quickly. It gets easier to get things. Anyhow, I'm kind of going round and round on the topic. And by the way, thanks for joining. If you want to ask a question, or I see we've got Florence in the chat room and the comment section. Feel free. I'll be getting to those shortly. Feel free to pop in there. And then a little bit further in the show, I don't want to keep calling it a show, but I'll give out a number. And if you want to talk to me, we can do that. I can talk to you for a minute. Yeah, okay. All right. So let's move into us. Oh, hi, Florence again. Good. So, especially for women, but for everyone, this topic of who we are and who we aren't. We aren't the things we think other people tell us we should be. We aren't a 6-figure income. We aren't a 7-figure income. We aren't a supermodel. We aren't a Tesla automobile. We aren't a PhD. These are things we do. These are things we think we want to acquire for a certain reason. And I think culture always wants to tell us that if you don't have these things, if you don't do these things, if you don't acquire these things, that you're nothing. And it simply isn't. That's not the truth of who we are. Culture has it backwards. Who we are is love. Who we are is wisdom that already came with us. We're divine. And it's so important that we rewrite the script and begin to let that be dominant in culture. And it's now more than ever, as we move out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, which is humanitarianism. How do we care for each other? How can we put our arms around each other rather than fight with each other and tell each other you're bad or you're wrong, or what the news wants to tell us? I hate you, you hate me. No, most of us don't hate each other. There are people out there, lower level frequencies, working those control levels, but most of us, we don't hate anybody. We just want to get along and be contributory. So it really begins with rejecting that crap that's out there in culture. And people have such difficulty with it. I see it every day with my clients who are trying to get somewhere or having relationship drama or family drama. We put ourselves in these little boxes and define ourselves by either what we look like, how much money we have in our bank account, what our neighbor thinks about us, what our boss thinks about us, what our parents think about us, our siblings, or it just keeps going on and on and on. And what's been fascinating to me through COVID and just the awakening, because it really is an awakening period. I was watching, well, first and foremost, I watched how the news, and it's probably always been this way, but I just saw how agendized it was and how much propaganda was in the news. Initially I felt betrayed. I was like, how dare they do this? It was really funny. Now I'm just like, oh, that's so unnecessary. But as we move into this pioneer time, it's like the ability to stay at that higher frequency of divine wisdom and live at the higher wisdom above this tangible. It's almost the tangible, reality. It's almost required. If you don't get on board with that type of thinking, you'll, I don't want to say you'll be left behind, but you will struggle far more than others. And I've watched it in my own life and my own business and in people I'm working with. That, I mean, this has been literally one of the best years of my life in recent memory. And that doesn't mean that if I see someone sick, anytime I see someone not doing well, I don't like to see people suffering. I'm not blind to any form of suffering, but it's really just been an incredible time of awakening and experiencing the energy coming in and cleaning out and really reorganizing what's happening on the planet. Now it's the beginning of a 60-year cycle, but we're in it. And so I know as I have moved with the energy as opposed to, oh my God, quarantine. Oh my God, my kids are home. Oh my gosh, sickness. Oh my God, when's the vaccine? Oh my God, what am I doing about my money? Oh my God. I don't live there. I live on the side of, oh, look at all this space. Oh, look at this. People have to be still. We're having to really look at ourselves and see what we believe is true. And it's really been a fascinating time, and I can tell you I've found it to be really interesting time. And I know that people who are able to go through that part of the paradigm, that perspective, they're going to do much better. So it is a really good time to launch businesses. It is a really good time to try those things you haven't tried in the past. It's and to think differently. So that's my initial spiel, and I'll be talking more and referencing who we are and who we aren't as we go. And hi Barry, and hi Stephen. Let's see. And by the way, I will be doing some questions here too, and whatever else comes up out of this sharing. Let's see, Stephen, I'm going to start from the bottom going up because that's a good question. How do we think of ourselves without limits or without putting limits on ourselves? I think it's situational, Stephen. I think in a moment when we're feeling limited, like when we say, oh, I can't afford this, or I can't go out, I'm going to get sick, or if I do this, someone's going to think negatively. Whenever we find ourselves in a moment where we're telling ourselves, no, this isn't possible. It can't happen. I'm constricted by my circumstance. That's a good place to begin, and begin to, work your way through that moment. So let's start, say, for instance, with a money one. That's a really good one. People often say, oh, well, I can't do this because I don't have the money, or I can't do this. I'm just not able to progress my life because my resources or whatever. That's a real common default people have. But if someone really wants to do something, they will get creative and find another route to make it happen. But a lot of times we get in this comfort zone where we think we don't want to get out of the comfort zone. Life is kind of okay. I've got food, electricity's on, I've got a place to live. It's okay. I'm not going to rock that boat to try and get into another boat. That's what holds most people back. So good. So you said I answered it, but it's really moment by moment, confronting those limiting beliefs and saying, I'm rejecting limiting beliefs. I'm saying no to that. I'm just not going to do it. That was a great question. And I've certainly had to answer that one many times in my own life, and I keep getting better at it. But I think the nature of the human experience, because it's limited, there's a beginning and a middle and an end to the human experience. We're all gonna leave here one day and drop this bag of protoplasm. So it is finite. But when we can operate from timelessness, it gets easier. Let's see, Florencia. Are there any updates on my project moving forward to open negotiations? Let's take a peek. Florence has been working on this monumental project, and I won't go into all the details of that, but it's a big deal, and it's a life-changing experience, and it's certainly the year to make this happen, and all into 2021. But as I pull that energy in, well, it feels to be stopped at the moment, but I'm hoping you guys can move it forward in this month, because as we move into tomorrow and the rest of September and the first part of October, things are slowing down. The energy is thicker, so it doesn't mean we cannot progress our projects or even start projects, but the energy is thicker. So I would assume, I would say, I don't know, I feel like there's something right around the 12th. The 12th would be a weekend. Is that right? Let me look at my calendar. Yeah, the 12th is a Saturday. So it feels like, oops, I lost my camera. From the 12th into next week, it seems like there should be some type of a meeting or something going on. But it is definitely slowing down. So that just tells me you have to keep tabs on it. And it's one of these things, because it's such a monumental amount of energy, that you have to keep attached to it and keep moving it forward. And the fact that you have to do that isn't a negative. It's just what happens when you're moving bigger pieces of energy. It's funny because a friend and I were having a discussion about her business, I think a week and a half ago, and she was saying, well, I finally got, real momentum going in my business, and this is going really well, and I wanted to go out of town for a few days, but I'm afraid, I don't want to let that momentum drop. So there's something to that. Once you get a momentum up, until it's operational on its own, you do have to keep at it. And so I think that mindset of keeping it going is definitely true for your situation. There's still tremendous potential around this project. It just needs a lot of babying. Lots of babying. Oh, hi, Claudia. I see you in there. It's good to see you. I love that. It's so simple. By the way, I love TikTok. I keep telling people about TikTok. One of the reasons I love it is because, there's people of all ages, but it's mostly, I would say, a 20 to 40 age demographic. And I really get to see what people in that generation period are thinking these days, and how they're approaching life. And it's so encouraging to me because, even I get in my own bubble too about what life is and what life isn't. But I'm so encouraged by um, the level of consciousness people have on there. And I've known this is true forever in terms of study from doing psychic development for so many years. But as a subject matter and as a planet, when we're focused on elevating, the whole thing elevates. And then when someone comes into a new class or a new situation, they're coming in at a 7 when I came in at a 5 when the energy was there. So it took me a little further to get up. But I'm noticing all these people, they've come into the planet at a time where consciousness was more elevated in certain ways. So there's like these abundance experts and love experts and all these people on TikTok who are like, I'm like, damn, this 25-year-old is rocking it. They are like smart as shit, excuse my language. But I'm like, these people are freaking amazing. How did they get so far at 25 or 30 when it took me into my 40s to get there? But what that's done for me is it's made me feel really optimistic about the future and the people who are going to be dealing with the planet long after I'm gone. Anyhow, I find it really enjoyable and a lot of good content on there. Much better. I mean, I barely even go on Facebook anymore. I do some of it, but Facebook to me feels really heavy and boring and kind of the same old, same old. And then it seems like Instagram is really for people who are really famous and, people who, supermodels. It's for people who are already established or something in a very large way. But TikTok and it's mostly just folks like me, and there's not a lot of celebrities on there. Matter of fact, it's frowned upon to have celebrities on there. Yeah, you just get people telling their stories. And the neat thing about it is it goes in, you can make 15-second videos and 30 and a minute videos. And then you can go live on there as well. But yeah, it's really, I have fun with it. I hardly watch TV anymore, actually. If I'm going to watch anything, I'm going to watch TikTok. And I actually am thinking about doing something over there to plug into that young network and see how that works. And there's some people over 40 in there, but I would say it's probably about 20% and 80% is younger folks. But it's really, I'm just saying, it's just interesting to see how that demographic thinks compared to where I was and the people I knew at that particular time. Anyhow, I'm kind of just going round and round, and I'm doing it kind of on purpose because um, it is a show, but I don't want it to be a show like I've done in the past and perform. I try to keep a rhythm to it so it's easy for you guys, but I do like it to be a sharing and just a sharing of ideas and things of that nature. So by the way, if there's something you want to hear about, let me know. I'm open to all subject matters. Of course, my wheelhouse is abundance, and everything I talk about really goes in that direction of how we can feel more and feel more full in the world, and whether that's love or whether that's money or whether that's career. That's always my wheelhouse. But yeah, and quick reminder, if you haven't joined the class on Saturday, you can join whenever you like. It doesn't matter to me if you come to all the classes or one of the classes. I'm going to be turning that class, Magnetism to Manifestation, into a guided course. And so people just get to show up and make their contributions or ask their questions as they like. And it's all you have to do is sign a waiver to be there. So we had a great time on Saturday. I think we had 19 or 20 people in that group. It was fun. And I don't get to do as much interaction in a group that size as I would if it was 4 or 5 people. But yeah, good stuff. Let's see, if those of you who aren't in the chat room, if you'd like to get in, or it's not a chat room, it's a comment section here on YouTube, feel free. And something I was talking about with a client actually this morning that I think might be helpful in the context of this conversation is listening to your calling and how to determine what's a calling versus um, what you're supposed to do, taking action. Because a lot of people who are trying to expand get stuck in that place of, well, I need to do these things. I need to make sure either my bills are paid. Everything always seems to go back to money. If I don't have money, I can't, that's just the default fear response. But, what's the difference between executing tasks and answering a calling? I think a calling is something we like, something that's interesting to us, something that we can't get away from. I know last week when I started episode 1, I kind of recapped my story, mostly for folks who might fall on the channel, have never met me before. But I had psychic experiences all the way through my life until they started when I was a child. I just kept on ignoring them. Or just just kind of passing it off. But then they just kept on getting louder and louder. And as I said, I never thought I'd become a professional psychic. That wasn't on my to-do list, but it just kept coming back. And I couldn't not do it. I mean, even to this day, I couldn't stop if I wanted. Somebody's going to want to have a reading at some point, or somebody's going to need some information, and I'm going to see the information. And, how do you keep all that to yourself? I've never really figured that out. I mean, I do it for a profession, so I don't have to get backed up. But it really does suck you in. And this woman and I this morning, we were talking about calling and not answering your calling and what that does to your life, or those things that call out to you, and you keep kind of pushing it away for whatever reason, for all the reasons that you can back up your own energy, and then it really forces you into your headspace, and you keep thinking it's an analytical thing. You need to solve it in that way. So, but to listen to your calling, we were joking about, or I was joking, it's actually not a joke, but I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't ask for much. I was a kind of I've always been a master manifester my whole life. I've never, money and getting things has never really been an issue. I came in on that vibration. And pretty much I could just think something, and within a short period of time, it's going to happen. And that's great, but it's also sucks when you're not together as a person and your emotional world isn't in balance, this kind of thing. So most of the things I got in my life ultimately bit me in the behind. They weren't good for me. And so I had to learn on the other side about manifesting with intention. And over time, I just realized, the less I ask for, the better, because life will always provide me what I need and will put me in situations that are for my highest good. It's when I start saying, oh no, I need this thing, I need that thing, I need that person, I need to live there. That's when things get complicated and start feeling like a struggle. So listening to the calling, staying in the flow, I mean, it just works so much better, so that all you have to do at that point is set an intention for what you want. And then if you are free and clear of your programming, your baggage, your emotional stuff, it's going to happen. I mean, that's just how it works. And, you can put more energy behind it. You can put a little more desire behind something, but even desire can take us out of balance. It's like, oh, I really, 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 really want that thing. I mean, yeah, then we're kind of out of balance, as opposed to put me where you want me to be. Put who needs to be in my life. Locate me to a geographic region I need to be in. Determine it for me. Because when you defer to the higher wisdom, you're going to get the best information that's available in the universe. If I'm going to make my own decisions, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot every time. Maybe you guys aren't as bad as I was, And I think that's the side effect of having been a really good manifester from day one, but then coming into a family pattern that was really not so good. So they gave me a bunch of challenges to work through. Anyhow, I'm just sharing different things and topics that came up this morning in my sessions. But I think listening to your calling, gosh, that's so important. Um, and it's almost like if you like the guy I talked about earlier who became a lawyer in a certain direction rather than going into environmental sciences, that calling didn't leave him. That desire to be in that realm did not leave him. But what happens is then we build a life that's outside of our calling, and it becomes more difficult to extricate ourselves from the structure that we built. That's that. If any of you do the tarot, I would call that the tower card, where everything has to be deconstructed in order for you to reconstruct, which can be a lot more energy. And I tell you, any of you who've ever been through a divorce, a negative divorce, holy crap, talk about needing to deconstruct something. And that's true. I've had most any relationship I've ever wanted in my life, I've pretty much had. When I said, "Oh, I want that guy," or I want that to happen, or I want to marry that guy. Yeah, okay, I got what I wanted, and boy, I got it. I got it all in full spades, right? I got it all the way, everything that comes with that, and ended up having to do a lot of deconstructing and a lot of cleanup and a lot of repair work. And how in the hell did I get here? I'm a good person. How can these things happen to me, right? Victim. So, yeah, getting what you want is tricky business. So, what's the point of this rant as I'm circling back to the main point? It's staying clear of too much mind chatter, extricating ourselves from cultural programming, and really learning to surrender to a wisdom that's greater than ours. And it's available to all of us. But if we're clogged up with a bunch of mind chatter, then we can't always hear. We can't hear the calling, we can't hear the wisdom. And then we're just reliant upon our own human wisdom, which is so limited. And we can't always stay in the flow. But if we can master that piece, everything else really does become so much simpler. I mean, my life is so much simpler than it was 20 years ago when I was younger. It was more beautiful. I had more energy. I had more years in front of me. But it wasn't easier. It was far harder than it is now. And I have a full life. I got a business. I got kids. I got places to go, things to do. I've got a life that I've built. But nonetheless, it's easier. I don't have the same stresses and worries because I don't worry about things. I have a process that I'm not just doing it by myself. I always give it up. I always surrender. And I guess that's why I know what I'm talking about works. And of course, that's the common sense psychic piece. I want the tangible and the intangible to make sense. So the title of the show, What You Are and What You Aren't. You're not this. This is your temporary vehicle to navigate the universe in. But it's the relationship, it's the energy you're cultivating with consciousness. And that I like to think of it as a wave in the ocean. That's what we're doing. We're navigating that wave in the ocean. And how do we do that and surrender to that? Yeah, and I think once you get through that, it's good stuff. Any other comments? Put them in the chat room. I think I'll finish up here with the forecast for September and the rest of September and part of October, and any other questions that come up in there. Is there anything else? I just want to encourage everybody who's listening or in the chat room, take that chance. Go lean into the direction. You're going to be okay. I think that's the eternal questions humans sit around. Am I going to be okay? Is everything going to be okay? Yeah, everything's going to be okay. It always is. Even if it falls apart, it will come back together, you know? And, I know I was going through some relationship things recently, and I hadn't been in a relationship for a while because had relationship fatigue. And it wasn't something that was super pleasant, but I said to my friend, you know what, I'm just having so much fun doing this for a while. Because I did that for a while, which was kind of boring, and I'd kind of done with that. And I'm doing this now. So rather than judging it as negative or positive, well, it's so fun to be focusing on, a little relationship drama over here as opposed to just this kind of thing. So that ability to have separation from your experience is like, well, it's not working the way I want it to work at this particular moment. But it's like, oh, well, it's fun to be doing something else. And I think if we can look at our overall life experience similarly, that it's a smorgasbord. But we tend to judge our experience by if it's pleasurable or if it's comfortable. And if we stop doing that, then we just kind of flow with what life gives us. It's just so much easier, so much more enjoyable. So let's talk about the rest of September and into October. So the energy is definitely getting thicker as the week progresses and as the rest of the month goes on. But there's some very cool energies going on this month astrologically, those of you who partake in that. My cat is doing something that's driving me nuts over here. Anyhow, so there are some nice moments this week and the last week of the month. Not that doesn't mean there aren't nice moments. It just means there's pockets of energy that are really quite sparkly this month. But the energy has definitely changed. In August, it was robust. It was rushing. No matter what you did, something was moving quickly. And, energy coming in, energy coming out. And I described it kind of like a ping pong ball that were going all over the place. And that pattern is now changing to a more slow, methodical, thoughtful. So, Florence, in the chat room, when you were asking about your project, that's kind of how it is. It has to be slow and methodical and moving forward. You just have to keep plugged into things in that way. And then that energy is going to stay with us through probably the first part of October. And then we hit another peak moment in the middle of October to the end. So nothing compares to the robust nature of August energy, but we feel sort of the pace pick up again in August or in October. So just know as you're navigating, I think of it like, I like all these water metaphors, probably because I'm a Pisces with a Cancer moon. I like everything water. But it's just like sometimes the water is like this. Sometimes the wind is moving us along. Sometimes it's this, rough. That's just kind of how it is. And if you think of it that way and don't react to it and know that you just have to prepare appropriately for whatever that is, it makes it better. We have this vaccine. I think it got put on hold yesterday. There was some issue, but there is a vaccine coming out relatively soon this year that'll go to the healthcare workers first. And but it still feels like by the end of the year, we'll have a really good sense of what's happening with the vaccine. And I know there's a whole controversy about whether you should take it or whether you should not take it. My kids won't have a choice. They're going to have to take it. They won't be allowed back into school, more than likely. That's my expectation. So if I want my kids to be able to go to school again, and the teachers, they're all getting it. So am I going to get it? Probably not. I'm not interested. I know. Think what you think about that, but I just not interested. And I think the way when society vaccinates itself, most people don't get it because most people are vaccinated. Not always, and I really trust my immune system and my body to survive anything that comes to it. Yeah, I really do. I'm not concerned. I have no underlying conditions that would cause me to be concerned. And on that front, I think anything, whenever fear is infused into culture in any form, it's not a benefit. There's never a benefit to becoming fearful. So I digress. No vaccine for me, but my kids will very likely have to take it. So we can look forward to, culture starting to calm down a little bit because there's a solution that the mind can recognize on the horizon. And then as we move into 2020, I know I'm going a little bit past October, but it really seems that nothing's going back to normal as we knew it anytime soon. And more people will return to work. I think masks are going to continue to be part of our, fashion accessory statements. I think it's just a side effect of being traumatized by this whole era. And organizations and businesses are so frightened to have to endure this again. I know my son is an athlete, and we frequented a local store called the Athlete's Corner, and there's a couple of them in our area. They're closing down. They could not survive COVID. I mean, that's it's criminal to me, but it's the nature of the beast. And there's a lot of people who will be displaced, and stimulus monies and this, that, and the other will have run out, and they will have to find something else to do, and that's okay. This is a time to get out and try new things, but it will take some time for people to and businesses to find their stability again. And I expect, as of today, the energy still suggests we're going to have a new administration, and so that's going to change the demeanor of how things are approached again in the country. And that'll be interesting of its own volition. That doesn't mean you shouldn't vote. Just because I'm predicting a certain thing, it means the energy is still moving in that direction pretty steadily. And even though it's a very close race, extremely close, it's really difficult to see Trump pulling ahead. And even with interference and tampering and all of that, I look at those competing energies, and they just still can't quite overtake the momentum that wants something different. So there's a lot of change, and the demeanor of the country will change again. And, it's still a crazy time where there's a lot of fighting going on and a lot of distress out in the world. But I hope that as you look at that, you can understand that it's really distress that wants to push us into another era. I mean, all conflict, all struggle. Just look at your own life. We have conflict and struggle to move us forward. And so, yes, it's hard to look at on certain levels, but recognize it has a purpose in our experience. Okay, so I think I've about emptied out everything I could think of to share with you guys today. If you have anything else you want to comment or say before I sign off for this Wednesday, I will look at it. Stephen, Claudia, Barry, Florence, it's fun having you in the chat room. And there's some folks in there. I don't know who you are watching, but I appreciate you being here. And, as this sharing continues to evolve, it will. It's just brand new for me, but I do expect I'm going to have other people here. People that I respect and admire, I think have something worthwhile to say. I'll get them to join me. I have to figure out I'm going to do it on a set and have them here with me, or if there's a way to, like on Zoom and other applications, you can put them in at the same time. I have to do a little more technical research. Not my favorite thing. Let's see, one last question, Florencia. I love it when you call any new job. For you, do you need a new job? Fill me in. I didn't know you were unemployed. Any new job. So tell me what you mean by that. Claudia, with the slower energy, will my new product launch go okay? It should be fine since it's already underway. I think for most people, Mercury is going retrograde this month, which really is a review and reflection time. But if you've had something in the works, it should be fine. But I would just say when you're launching during a thicker energy period, I would really double check everything and prepare for unexpected interferences so that they don't throw you. And I know in a new product launch, stuff is going to go cuckoo anyhow. It's just bound to happen. So just know that going in, that's part of the nature of the beast, and then it won't really, you know, it won't upset you, but it should be fine. Um, oh, Florencia is asking about her job changing. Yeah, your job is going to change somewhere around, it looks like the end of October, but it's not a negative change. It looks like a lateral change or something like that. So um, I don't see you without work. Let's put it that way. I see your income continuing to be what you need it to be. Oh, she's saying I still have the current job, not certain if continues until project sells or I think it will continue because even when your project sells, um, I don't know that the money will come in until next year. There is some indication you could get something up front, but because you're dealing with such large numbers, the energy just always moves differently. I would say the earliest you would see any upfront money would be the middle of October, and then larger money comes next year still. Oh, hi, Dawn. Hi, Phyllis. Can you give me any insight into the problems that my husband Armando is having with unemployment? Will we get it fixed in our favor? Oh, well, that sucks. Okay, let me see if I can grab that. Mm, have my electrolyte water. Let's see, Armando. And the unemployment snafu. Let's see. Okay. Um, well, I think, unfortunately, I think it will get solved. That's a short answer. But it takes frickin' forever. I mean, once you get in the wrong lane with a governmental agency, it takes many, many moons to get out of the wrong lane. But I think you will get it fixed and it will go in his favor, but it could take up to another 4 weeks is what I'm seeing. Now that's the worst case scenario. 4 to 6 weeks actually is the worst case scenario. So yeah. Yeah, so it will. It's just a pain. I'm sorry you guys are going through that. All right, kids. I hope you have a great Wednesday. Take advantage of the energy today. This is like one of the best days, apparently astrological, that there is. I'm not an astrologer per se, but it's one of the best days of the month. So go do something. Go make something happen. Go, if you want to find love, go on a dating site or put yourself out there in whatever way you can, depending on what part of the country you're in because of COVID. But it's a great day. And even with you, Florence, it's a great time to push the needle on those plans and try and get something to happen. Okay. Again, the magnetism course you can join anytime during the 8 weeks. It's up to you. I just need a waiver for you to participate. And is there anything else? I don't think so. All right, guys, thanks for being here. It wouldn't be nearly as much fun without you. If you like it or you know someone who might like it, just share and have them subscribe, and I appreciate it. Mwah, 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 mwah. Okay, see you guys later. Happy new moon day or full moon. Is it new moon or full moon? I don't know. Something great going on. So take advantage of the energy. Okay, bye-bye.